Look, doing a deal with Iran is not easy. I said it yesterday, I'll repeat it again today. I mean, we have to understand that Iran ultimately is governed, and its decisions are governed by Shia clerics, radical Shia clerics, okay? These people make policy decisions on the basis of pure theology. That's how they make their decisions. So it's hard to do a deal with Iran. We've always said it's hard, but we're going to try. But I don't want to overstate it either. It's going to be hard. I mean, we're dealing, it's been very difficult for anyone to do real deals with Iran because we're dealing with radical Shia clerics who are making theological decisions, not geopolitical ones. On your first question about Iran, look, doing a deal with Iran is not easy. I said it yesterday, I'll repeat it again today. I mean, we have to understand that Iran ultimately is governed, and its decisions are governed by Shia clerics, radical Shia clerics, okay? These people make policy decisions on the basis of pure theology. That's how they make their decisions. So it's hard to do a deal with Iran. We've always said it's hard, but we're going to try. That's what the president is trying. I'm not going to prejudge those talks. I'm certainly not going to negotiate with Iran here in front of the press and on the stage. Our negotiators are on their way there now. They'll have meetings. We'll see what happens. We're hopeful there's a deal. The president always prefers peaceful outcomes and negotiated outcomes to things. He's a president that's shown his willingness to talk to anyone and meet with anyone. And I think if there's an opportunity here to diplomatically reach an agreement that addresses the things we're concerned about, we will be very open and welcoming to that. But I don't want to overstate it either. It's going to be hard. I mean, we're dealing, it's been very difficult for anyone to do real deals with Iran because we're dealing with radical Shia clerics who are making theological decisions, not geopolitical ones. But let's see what happens. I hope it works out. We all hope it works out.
Warships in the waters, diplomats at the table. As U.S. aircraft carriers move closer to Iran, high-stakes nuclear talks are back on, and the next round could determine whether the region edges toward peace or confrontation. Iran says it is ready for a deal, but only when that delivers real economic benefits for both sides. Ahead of fresh talks with Washington and Geneva, Iranian officials signaled a more conciliatory tone, even as U.S. military pressure builds in the region. Indirect negotiations, mediated by Oman, are set to resume in Geneva. Envoys including Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are expected to engage Iranian officials in what could be a pivotal diplomatic moment. Iran's deputy foreign ministers signaled flexibility, suggesting Tehran could dilute its most highly enriched uranium in exchange for sanctions relief. For the sake of an agreement's durability, it is essential that the U.S. also benefits in areas with high and quick economic returns. Foreign Ministry Deputy Director for Economic Diplomacy Hamid Gunbari said, according to the semi-official Fars news agency, common interests in the oil and gas fields, joint fields, mining investments, and even aircraft purchases are included in the negotiations, Gunbari said, arguing that the 2015 nuclear pact with world powers had not secured U.S. economic interests. But one red line remains: zero enrichment. Tehran insists it will not abandon uranium enrichment entirely, rejecting a key U.S. demand. At the same time, Washington is tightening the economic screws. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have reportedly agreed to work toward crying Iran's oil exports to China, a trade that accounts for more than 80% of Tehran's oil revenue. The shadow of history looms large. Trump withdrew the U.S. in 2018 from the 2015 nuclear deal, reimposing sweeping sanctions on Iran. Now, both sides are attempting a narrower, high-risk diplomatic reset, this time without European powers at the table. Iran says the ball is in America's court. Washington says diplomacy is the preferred path, but military options remain ready. With aircraft carriers deployed and negotiations underway, the coming days could decide whether this nuclear standoff cools or ignites. The United States has dispatched a second carrier strike group to the Middle East, underscoring U.S. President Donald Trump's dual-track strategy, diplomacy backed by force. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, speaking in Bratislava, made it clear Washington prefers a negotiated settlement, but he warned that success is far from guaranteed.
The United States has thousands and thousands of troops deployed to the NATO mission. And we've made very clear, I think it was made very clear at the summit just a few days ago at the meeting of the defense minister level, we're not leaving NATO, we're not leaving. I mean, we may move a couple thousand troops from one country to another, but this has always been the case. This has always happened. By the way, we are not threatened or feel it is hostile to see NATO grow in its own capabilities, not independent of the United States, in conjunction with the United States. We don't think it's a negative thing that other countries have more influence in NATO, other partner nations have more influence in NATO, or that other countries within NATO have more capability. We view that as a positive. I see it reported yesterday in some places, oh, the Europeans are very upset. They're going to be less dependent on America now. We don't want Europe to be dependent. Now, we're not asking Europe to be a vassal of the United States. We want to be your partner. We want to work with Europe. We want to work with our allies. We want to work in cooperation with you. And our point has been and continues to be, the stronger you are, both on an individual basis in terms of countries and collectively as an alliance, the stronger the members of NATO are, the stronger NATO is. Let me go first on your question. I'm not going to talk about attacks on Iran or anything of that nature, because the president's made clear he prefers diplomacy and an outcome of negotiated settlement. Now, we're dealing with radical Shia clerics. Okay? We're dealing with people who make geopolitical decisions on the basis of pure theology, and it's a complicated thing. I mean, no one's ever been able to do a successful deal with Iran, but we're going to try. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be traveling. I think they're traveling right now to have important meetings, and we'll see how that turns out. And we'll always comply with the applicable laws of the United States in terms of involving Congress in any decisions. But right now, we're not talking about any of that. We are postured in the region for one simple reason, and that is that we understand that there could be threats to our forces in the region. We've seen them be threatened in the past, and we want to make sure that we have sufficient capacity to defend them if, God forbid, that were to happen. Right now, we're talking about negotiations. We are focused on negotiations. That's what we're focused. The president's made that clear. If that changes, it'll be obvious to everyone, and obviously whatever the law requires us to do, we'll do. With regards to your question about the frog toxin, no, it's a very serious thing. Look, those countries came to that conclusion. They coordinated that. We chose, doesn't mean we disagree with the outcome. It wasn't, our endeavor. Sometimes countries go out and do their thing based on the intelligence they've gathered. We obviously are aware of the report. It's a troubling report. We're aware of that case of Mr. Navalny, and certainly it's, we don't have any reason to question it, or we're not disputing or getting into a fight with these countries over it, but it was their report, and they put that out there.